Hey guys, it's Angela. Welcome back to my channel, Literature Science Alliance, and I wanted to do a book tag today, so I'm going to do the new to Booktube tag, and I will link the original down in the description below. And I don't have anyone to tag because I don't know anyone who just started like I did, but if you are also someone who has just become a booktuber like me in the past month or so, definitely comment below or find me on Instagram or Twitter because I want to go through this journey with people. So definitely reach out. So yeah, let's just get into it. Number one is, I think, where am I coming to you from? And that is the marvelous Boston, Massachusetts. But actually, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and I love that more. Went to my undergrad at Ohio State, if you can't tell from the little sign up there. Yep, I'm here in Boston for grad school. I've been here for 5 years now, so I don't get lost ever. Although it's a pretty easy to maneuver city, just don't expect to get anywhere fast. Yeah, so here on the East Coast, it's pretty cold all the time. Not that I wasn't used to that back home, so yeah. And number two, I believe, is how old am I? I am 27. I love birthdays, so I do not care how old I am. I am old enough to have my own insurance and do taxes, so woo. Yeah, and I think now I'm starting to forget what these are. Number three is, why did I join Booktube? I joined Booktube because I want to talk about books and I want to hear about books that I should be reading. So I want to be given recommendations and I want to give recommendations. And I thought it would be fun. And so far it is. I have like 6 subscribers and they give me life. No, but really, you guys are great. It's just so nice to know someone's listening, but I mean, it's really cool just to start being a part of the community and really, just get to talk about books. Everyone's so welcoming here. It's really great. What is the meaning behind my channel name? And the meaning is I am not good at naming things. So I asked some of my friends, like, hey, I want to start like a booktube channel or maybe a blog. What do you guys think some good names are? And one of them ended up being Literature Science Alliance, and I liked that it rhymed. And I liked that it kind of fit me. I am a scientist who loves to read, and I kind of like meshing that together. I actually have this idea for a video series once I'm better at things, where I would look into magic systems that are based heavily on maybe some science that does exist, and really like kind of the science behind the magic. What is the science that inspired these cool systems, and kind of dig into that. And I think that'd be really fun. Let's see. What types of books do you read / want to talk about? Primarily adult fantasy, if only because that is like a lot of what I read. I love adult fantasy, probably because it's far away from real life. I mean, it deals with, real life issues and the characters, and, it can touch on societal things, but for the most part, it's pretty far removed from my average day, so that's nice. And I also really enjoy science fiction. I actually want to read more science fiction. I used to read more of it and was more balanced, but I've gotten a little skewed. So, I mean, I love classic science fiction. I need to find more space science fiction I like, those space operas and things like that. I have thought about getting into The Expanse, so if you like that, let me know. Or if you have other science fiction recommendations. But that's something I want to get into more. And then a lot of other adult fiction. So I probably read between 10 and 20 historical fictions or contemporaries a year. And usually those ones are the ones that really leave me thinking and give me good thoughts and things I want to talk about. So definitely we'll be talking about those. And yeah, I'm excited to be surprised. Every year is a year where books can come out of nowhere and surprise me, and I am all about that. Who are some of your favorite authors? Well, my favorite author is Brandon Sanderson. And if you've watched any of my videos by now, you know that. I have not buried that lead. So he's my favorite. I'm trying to think of not just series, like individual works that are my favorites, but like actual authors that like are consistently there for me. I think N.K. Jemisin is becoming that for me. I have read her Broken Earth trilogy, and I'm now in her Inheritance trilogy, and both of them have been very captivating. So I'm really like feeling like I can trust her as an author. Robert Bennett Jackson is starting to become that because I've picked up a few of his different works and been enjoying it a lot. So those are just a few of my favorite authors. I'm sure I could think of more if I had like made a list. But all right. What's the last book I read? I actually have that right here, and that is Handmaid's Tale. So, premise. Some distant future time, we're now called Gilead, and women have no real say or choice, and a handmaid is a woman who is forced to be a surrogate. And this is a memoir of one of those. I'm just making that brief in case you are one of the few people who haven't been really exposed to it since the show came out. I will say, like, season 1 and this book are really close to being almost the same thing for me. I didn't feel like the book added much that the show didn't give me, but the show adds a lot more of the world. But it's still like the prose in this, I guess. That's what this added. This has some really interesting prose, and it was a good read and pretty dense. It's also one of the first books I like tried to annotate, and do not know how I feel about annotation in terms of like my quality of reading. But yeah, it's what I just finished like yesterday. And right now, I mentioned it a little earlier, I'm reading The Broken Kingdom by N.K. Jemisin, and that is the second book in the Inheritance trilogy. And ooh, am I enjoying it. I actually want to get this done so I can go on my couch and read it. It's really good. It's been a long time since I've read the first book, so I'm trying to remember the premise, because the second book is in the same world and takes place after the events of book 1, but it's a different main character, and I love this main character. Mainly because she feels awesome to me. She feels really well developed and like a person, but also she's blind and we're in her perspective, and I am enjoying all of this intrigue that exists just because there's intrigue because it's N.K. Jemisin, but also she's blind so I can't see everything. It's great. I mean, it's great if you like to like slowly discover things. If you don't like being blind, I guess, then you wouldn't like it. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm hoping maybe it could be my first 5-star of the year. That hasn't quite happened yet, but only 100 pages in, but having a great time. All right, now I need to look again to figure out what the next question is. What do you use for bookmarks? I typically use this. When you go to my local bookstore, the Brookline Booksmith, you get these paper bookmarks that are pretty good. They're like pretty solid, like not too flimsy. They're like a good height. And when they wear out or I lose them, I don't care. So yeah, that's what I use. Nothing fancy. And closed it. It says show your current TBR pile. And I have them all over here. But I don't think that's particularly interesting. If you do want, I'll make a TBR video. But honestly, most of these are not books that I'm really going to be reading soon. These are from when I went through like book buying binges and I just haven't gotten to them yet, and that was like 2 years ago. A more accurate representation of my TBR is like my Goodreads, because I borrow all my books from the library, so I just kind of keep putting holds in until things show up. So that's my TBR, and it's in my Goodreads, link down below. What do I prefer, hardcover or paperback? Being a commuter has changed my opinion. I like paperbacks a little bit more because they're a little less cumbersome on the T, but I will say a hardback looks and feels nice when you're just like sitting on the couch. Also, sorry if you're hearing like little meows in the background. My one cat's decided it's dinner time, even though it's not. But I don't know if you've ever tried to convince a cat anything, but it's not worth your time. And then ebooks or physical books. Again, this is something my commute has like... I used to always say physical books because I love seeing the physical progress. Like you can really tell when you're near the end. You're just like, I can only have this many pages left. Whereas an ebook, you get the percentage, but it's not as satisfying to me. Like I don't feel like 80% in an ebook feels as satisfying as 80% in a physical book. But the ebook I can hold in one hand on the trains, so I can go either way. It's why I get either or at the library. Which leads me to the last one, owning or borrowing. I borrow books almost exclusively. When I can get books, I get them from the Brookline Booksmith. When I buy books, it's for gifts. I rarely buy books for myself anymore mainly because I live in Boston. I have a small apartment. I only have 2 bookshelves, and that's kind of my limit. I try not to go too far beyond that. Maybe when I get a house one day, I can expand, because I would like to own a bunch of books and support authors I really like. But right now I have to, face reality. And what book series got you into reading? I'm going to go with like way back, like when I was a kid. So when I was 5 to 8, probably more like 7. I think 7's when really I started to get that reading bug, where it wasn't just me and my mom reading books together at night. It was like me grabbing a pile of books from the half-price bookstore and making her buy them. And that would have been the Junie B. Jones books and the Bailey School Kids. And if you don't know what the Bailey School Kids are, they're great. Way better than that other tree book people always read. But yeah, I mean, they had cool titles like Vampires Don't Wear Polka Dotted Shirts, because like they thought their teacher who wore polka dotted shirts was a vampire. Like they were great. They were great stories. I'll put an image here in case you've never seen them, but I love those. And I guess after that, Harry Potter. And in high school, when I started to fall out of reading, Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn and Elantris. And then in college, when I finally took a summer to start reading again, because if you know, college is hard to read during, the Stormlight Archives. So that's why Brandon Sanderson has a special place in my heart. He gets me out of a lot of reading slumps. Alrighty. Next up, how did I discover Booktube? Googling. I actually don't know if the algorithm did it. For one reason or another, I stumbled upon Murphy's and Daniel's fantasy book joint video, and I watched it, and I've had fun being validated in my book decisions, and then I just kept watching both of them, and I really like Murphy's style, and I really like the diversity that she reads. So yeah, that's how I found it, and then obviously the algorithm took it from there. And then, what challenges do I think I will face? Well, I'm still learning where I need to look to be looking at you. So that's something. I'm an amateur, so everything's learning how to edit, learning how lighting should work, framing, holding books for the camera. So all those technical details. Obviously thinking of content that both I find interesting and people find interesting and engage with. So probably just those normal things. Where else can you find me? Well, I have all the links down below, but I've got an Instagram, a Twitter, and a Goodreads that are all associated with this Booktube account. And so you can comment on any of my things there. You can direct message me on Instagram, I think that's an option. And yeah, I'll have those all linked down below. And that's about it. Yeah, so if you made it this far, thanks. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.